Welcome back to Crackerjack Movie Chat. I am your host, Peter J. McCluskey, joined by Robert Toome.
Every day.
So, Robert, novel adaptations. I feel like we've been biting our tongues, biting our lips, sort of almost going into novel adaptations a lot over the last few weeks, because I feel like we both share the opinion that just because a film doesn't follow the book it's based on doesn't make it bad. But also we have to talk about cases where we don't think adaptations worked. So I feel like this will be an interesting one tonight. And I feel like we should probably add right at the start, this is the first in a new era, I suppose you would say, because basically we got fed up of days going by where we'd discuss, so what are we doing next? What are we doing next if we didn't have something big to cover like the Snyder Cut? So now, from now on, we have a wheel, a digital wheel with a bunch of topics on it. And at the end of each episode, we will be spinning the wheel to see what we will be discussing the following week. And of course, fate would have it, I feel like the wheel just knew what we wanted to discuss, really. It landed on novel adaptations this week. So we're going to go for best worst wild card, as we like to do. So, Robert, what have you got for your best novel adaptation?
Well, my best is, we spoke about, I found this subject quite hard to pick because there are a lot of good films that are book adaptations. Godfather, Schindler's List, we were talking about that. But I've went for Goodfellas, which was a film adaptation of Wise Guys, or the story of Henry Hill. I think the book's more or less of an autobiography on the fella. The film is well known. It's classic. It possibly is one of the best mafia type films, wise guy films, gangster films, if you would. There are elements that are different from the book, which I personally haven't got a problem with. Obviously, it's following a real person's life in a slight sense, so I understand when they change certain names or change certain stories, or they change certain things. So if you remember, Henry, when he's about, is it 15 or maybe even about 15, he's arrested for selling cigarettes. I think it was actually in real life he was arrested for stolen credit cards. So, I mean, those little things, but that he never spoke, and he was accepted in by the mafia family, or this family of wise men, or wise guys. So, I mean, stuff like that is different in the book. Although the book, Henry Hill actually joined the military at 17, that doesn't get brought up in obviously in the film. So, I mean, it doesn't really make a lot of difference. That I don't think was needed. But some of the names are different, but some of them aren't. So his wife was actually called Karen. They go with the affair that he had, the coke, and the fact he became quite a fallen figure. The great mafia hit scene of the mafia fella that tells Joe Pesci's character to go and get his little shoebox. Apparently that relatively was true. That all happened. The way it happened, the stabbing and the burial, that the way he was killed as well, shot in the head and left. Joe Pesci's character is. The film almost feels like an autobiography in the way it's narrated, the way it cuts. You don't really get. I feel like it just constantly is through Henry Hill's perception, and then even the slight scenes where Karen is narrating, you get it through her perception. It's like the family, so you never really. I don't feel like you ever get scenes with just De Niro. You never felt like that. I mean, you did have the few scenes, obviously, but it was more them explaining what they knew. So you got the scene with Joe Pesci explaining something. Joe Pesci being killed, obviously they weren't there, but they were explaining how it was done, so how they knew. Yeah, I mean, the film's great. I love the film. It's a very entertaining film. It was a very good perception of the wise guy nature, and how he became a what do you call it, put in a witness protection. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those ones, as we say, it doesn't have to be exactly like the book. I've not really got, I like if a film has to be a book adaptation, the key word is an adaptation. I don't mind minor changes or even same crimes, but no, well, same type of crime, but just wee differences. it's not a big thing, but I would say Goodfellas fantastic acting, and yeah, I mean, how much praise can you give a Goodfellas? Peter, I don't know if you've seen it or anything to add or the book.
Oh yeah, I've not read the book, but of course, Goodfellas, it's a perennial. I would actually say, like, just to be on the other side of things, I do like The Godfather better than Goodfellas, but Goodfellas is a classic. And I feel like talking about adaptation here, one thing that we need to bring up is how cinematic this film feels. Like, you would never think it was based on a book. Like, obviously, words and the way Henry describes everything that goes on around him play a huge part into it, but it's all, and this is another strength of the movie, it's all a montage. Like, the movie never stops to breathe. Like, it just goes along at a fast pace, and like, that has killed some movies, let's face it. Like, some movies, like, you're just begging them, no, stop and explore your characters. But like, this movie is exploring its characters while going at that fast-paced montage speed. And yeah, let's face it, what this movie did for Scorsese, like, he has, like, I feel like Scorsese, you look at him, he's pre-Goodfellas periods and his post-Goodfellas period, because you got all the classics like Taxi Driver, etc. before Goodfellas, but I feel like from Goodfellas forward, he's made a lot of really good films, but they're all kind of remakes of Goodfellas. Like, Wolf of Wall Street felt like Goodfellas. The Irishman is basically Goodfellas. There are all these stories about someone outside the mafia being brought into the mafia, or in the case of Wolf of Wall Street, a guy outside of Wall Street being brought into Wall Street, being corrupted by whatever this group, this institution is, and then having the huge downfall at the end. So, just huge influence on where Scorsese's going after that movie. But yeah, Goodfellas is great, and yep, I love what they did with De Niro in this as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange the first time you watch it how little focus he has in the movie.
Yep.
But I feel like that actually works to like take him out of the leading man spotlight he was in at the time, and just having him in the background always, and you always get the sense, oh, he's like got plots on all of these people if they fail, and that just puts him as this brilliant villain in the film. So yeah, Goodfellas is a really good movie.
Yeah, it's close to the story of the book as well. If that's your cup of tea, if you need it to be exactly the story, as I say, the Wise Guys feels more like an autobiography, which I feel like the film kind of explores as well as being quite cinematic. So that's my final thoughts on the Goodfellas.
Cool. So my pick for best novel adaptation, like, I thought about going with Lord of the Rings, but like, I feel like I've like discussed Lord of the Rings a bit when we covered Carl Urban, and I know, Robert, you will be venturing into Middle Earth at some point in a few minutes, so I feel like it's best left to you to like say what you need to say about a certain other franchise set in Middle Earth. But yeah, I ended up going with another movie that was one of my childhood favorite films and has just persisted, and like, I just keep seeing new things in it as I keep revisiting it. It is the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which is a fantastic film to me. Like, it just has like everything you want in a childhood fantasy film, like, where you have Charlie, who's just like is the poorest of the poor basically, and he's just swept up into this brilliant world of Willy Wonka, the candy maker. And yeah, like, it's a case where I did read the book in school, primary school, so it's been a long time since I've read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But yeah, this is a case where I feel like the movie succeeds by identifying what the appeal of the book is, but entirely going in its own direction. Like, basically, if you want to know what this movie did different from the book, go and watch the Tim Burton remake, because that movie's a lot closer to the book and not better for it, I'm going to say. Like, and maybe that's just me not really liking anything Tim Burton did post Ed Wood, but yeah, I'm just not a fan of that remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But this movie, it's just, Yeah, I mean, it's like going into superlatives about how fantastic this movie is. Like, let's talk about like Charlie in this movie. Like, Charlie is like the prototypical likable kid who like could just be like a bland character you're just supposed to like project yourself into, but like you actually get this guy and you get how like yeah, he's doing his best in life, but like there is this longing for something better, and like Grandpa Joe obviously is just one of the like great whimsical characters, like sort of like the sort of falls into like Gandalf or Dumbledore role, although Wonka kind of falls into that role as well, to be honest. But yeah, just this mentor who like knows all the lore of Willy Wonka, and just a figure like every child like needs to look up to at that age, where like there's this character who knows everything about the past, everything you're wanting to get interested in, and yeah, it's just a guiding force for you. And of course, we need to talk about Gene Wilder. Like talked about Gene Wilder a bit in Young Frankenstein when we covered that movie, and he's just fantastic in this movie. Like he's of course the zany Willy Wonka character, but at the same time, you get this kind of darker streak in the character where like you sort of get like these quieter moments, like especially at the end of the movie when you figure out oh what he's been doing is he's been testing Charlie the whole time to see if Charlie is suitable to take over the chocolate factory. You get this human being behind the madman basically, and like Wilder is the one actor who could have pulled that off at the time, I think, just going from the crazy to like this heartfelt real human character beneath that. Roald Dahl, of course, hated a lot of adaptations of his books because they didn't follow him closely enough, and who knows, maybe he badmouthed it. He definitely did badmouth the film, but who knows how much people would have paid attention to that back in the day. But yeah, I just love this film, like the characterizations of the four other children and the fates they ultimately bring upon themselves when they enter Willy Wonka's domain is just perfectly done. And yeah, as I say, a lot of the set pieces inside the factory are different when you get into this film than the book, but they get the idea, they get the morality play of the film and needing to prove yourself able to like care about other people rather than just yourself in order to impress Willy Wonka. So this is one of those cases where this is like the definitive version of that story for me. Like, yep, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, just it will always sit there as one of my all-time favorite films. So, Robert, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I massively prefer this to the Tim Burton Johnny Depp version. In so many levels. I'm the same. It's been a while since I've read any Roald Dahl book, really, to be honest with you. But that Johnny Depp one scares me. And it's more the absolute difference between Gene Wilder and Johnny Depp's characters. It's just that they look like two different people. Johnny Depp being creepy, awkward, scary, whereas Gene Wilder being very entertaining, comforting, with a slight hint of madness, especially that really scene where, let's be honest, when you go down that tunnel, that changed. That whole film just had that period of, whoa, whoa, what's happened here? It's like psychedelic horror, which was fantastic. Film does have a lot of charm to it. Like, I know, I think you brought it up as well. The Johnny Depp one or Tim Burton's is closer to the book, but yet the Gene Wilder one feels more like a Roald Dahl story, and I don't know why. It just does. It has a more charming, colourful feel, whereas the Johnny Depp Tim Burton one was just very sterile and cold and creepy.
It
Johnny
feels
Depp
more
was
artificial, to be honest. Like, it feels like someone trying too hard to make a kids movie, you know?
yeah, yeah, like you had that. Like, is it not they follow the same scene where he doesn't want anything to do with the factory, but then they have a whole connection with him and his father. It's just like that generic childhood thing where, oh, there's a very low moment, oh, there's a hero moment, and we're back. Whereas, yeah, no, because I think was it the original Gene Wilder moment. He says you failed, and he just gives him back the candy, and it's like that little gesture proved to him that Charlie was the right person for it. I think that was a nicer thing, not this stupid old. I don't know. If I compare it to the Johnny Depp one, it's just far superior. The Gene Wilder one, that is. Everything about it, even the songs were a lot better. And I don't know if this was a modernisation attempt. You know, things need to be a bit hip hop or edgy. It just didn't feel. The whole basically the Gene Wilder film feels a lot more inviting, and as a classic, I'd say. I think that's a classic child film. That's what I would say it is.
Definitely, like something everyone should see. Also, like another one of these films where, like, don't know if I've mentioned before, I feel like modern kids films are too light for me when like seem like obviously I don't watch a lot of modern kids films, but like a lot of them just come across as light and one note and hey, it's all whimsical and noisy and colorful because that's what we give the kids before they can watch actual films. But you look at these films like this, Wizard of Oz, and even the Toy Story films, there's dark edges to these films, and like that helps you grow up. And like it's like what Willy Wonka's about essentially is Willy Wonka like testing these kids with their own darkness to see who the strongest is of them, and that's like something every kid has to go through. And I feel like it's an issue with modern kids films that there's no darkness to them, and like it's I don't know, maybe I'm being overcautious here, but it could have long-term effects and just destroy generations by not facing darkness at a young age, you know, just having all this light and colorful entertainment, then you may not grow up properly at that point. But you know, as we'll see in generations to come. And yeah, I feel like this is definitely one like folks, any new parents out there, if you haven't shown this film to your kids, do it now and they'll enjoy it and they'll appreciate it, I think.
Or you will have failed them.
Like those kids failed Willy Wonka.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, those are a couple of good picks, I think. So, Robert, why don't you bring us on to your worst novel adaptation?
Right. Oh, right. Oh. I think this
We're
may
going
be
to be here for a
controversial.
while, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah. My first thought is this controversial? But the more I think a lot of people may agree. I'm going to go with The Hobbit, or the three Hobbit films, adapted obviously from The Hobbit, which is one book. Where do I start with this? I personally, right, I hate this film. I hate these films. Is it because I do really love Lord of the Rings, and maybe I'm doing the unfair thing of comparing them to the originals? Possibly. However, people do compare every trilogy of Star Wars films to the originals, and that seems to be fair, so we'll do it with these. Can anyone really back the idea of turning it into three films? I mean, try and tell me that wasn't a cash grab. I mean, just dreadful. I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, there was the rumours that Peter Jackson didn't have enough time because I think it was Del Toro that was actually originally supposed to be the director.
Peter Jackson and Del Toro worked on it for like years, but they were working on it with New Line, who made Lord of the Rings. New Line only owned the rights to Lord of the Rings and didn't own the rights to The Hobbit. So, like, they were like doing all this work and being told, "Oh, we haven't got the rights to The Hobbit yet." And they're like, "Yeah, but like, you're paying us to do this work on The Hobbit. Why aren't we? Like, we don't know if we're doing it." So Del Toro just eventually left, basically, and Peter Jackson took over. So it's a troubled production right from the start, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, because there's a lot in the net about he didn't have enough time. That's not the only problem. I'm actually racking my brains. I think I feel like they tried to connect it to Lord of the Rings too much. I mean, I know Lord of the Rings, used basically the book was there. It was his journey. I totally get it, but I felt they tried to connect so much, and the timeline was a bit. I don't know. I feel like they created a bit of their own problems by trying to include so many characters, and then there is my other problem as well. I feel like there was a lot of characters in it. Like there was a lot, and the like Lord of the Rings. I remember near enough most of the characters, or I have if you say a name, I'll have maybe at least two faces in my head that I'll go, oh, it's either one of those. Start saying Hobbit characters to me, I won't have a clue who's who. I didn't think they were very memorable. And I've got an issue with a lot of CGI, especially really shoddy. Like the CGI I felt was terrible. I felt that there was no need. Like Lord of the Rings didn't use a lot of CGI, or maybe they did, but they used it well. I get you can't have 200 people dressed up as orcs and big ogres. I get that, so you CGI that. But I felt like The Hobbit was CGIing. You know, Peter could be one of the heroes, and I would be an orc, and they would have CGI'd me when I felt like there was no need. And that's where the CGI really looked really bad. I can't remember if it was the second Hobbit. See, I don't even know what they're all called. I don't know if it was the second Hobbit. There was a scene with one of the dwarves, and they fight 3 orcs, but all of the orcs are CGI'd. Whereas in Lord of the Rings, and it really zooms in their faces. Whereas in the orcs, Lord of the Rings, it would have been human beings and great costumes. I know I've compared it to Lord of the Rings, but the film created their own problem with that. I mean, yeah, talk about the dwarfs here. Do you remember any of the dwarfs, Peter? I sure as don't. I didn't get them.
Want me to tell you like why I remember the dwarves? Not because of the film, because I watched special features. Like there's like, of course, Peter Jackson, and I love that Peter Jackson does this. Puts hours and hours of special features on all his films. Like, I love that. I love that it's all in place in that way, and you can just delve into any scene in Lord of the Rings essentially. But
Yep.
That's why I know the names of the dwarves, because I watched special features on The Hobbit, not because of the films. Like, and it's almost a case where like I can like appreciate the special features of The Hobbit, of these actors who went to New Zealand and had a cool time making this movie, more than I can appreciate watching the movie. So take that as a positive if you want, but I don't know.
I don't remember their names, but I just know Richard Armitage played the leader. That's all I know of them. The villains, see, there we go, talking about the villains were poor. I feel like the villains were poor. Like, what was the name of the big orc thing that was chasing them? You know, the big
Azog.
He's pretty boring.
Yeah.
I never understood him. I mean, I just don't know. Like, I remember the one from Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. You know, the one that appeared with that killed Sean Bean's character. And now I'm forgetting their names, but you know what I mean. But don't get me started on. Now let me get this right. Smog is the dragon, isn't it? No, no dragon. Oh yeah, the dragon.
Yep.
See, I've confused. Now I expected that to be great. I wasn't. I didn't really get Smog. I didn't think he was a great villain either. He just felt more like a holder.
For me, Smaug works like for a period, but then like everything, it drags out too long, and it's just him talking to Bilbo for too long, and like it's like this was cool for a couple of minutes, and then you needed to make him do something. But yeah,
it just felt as if they gave Benedict Cumberbatch too much time. Yeah, I go with that. It's almost as if Cumberbatch enjoyed probably playing the character and enjoyed using his voice, but that was the problem. It just felt as if he was on and on and on and on. Basically, The Hobbit just felt really slow. For me, I get other people might disagree. The Hobbit for me just felt like 3 Fellowship of the Ring films, but not as good. You know? I mean, the best thing I seen on the net was, could we consider these films to be worse than Star Wars prequels? Now, I'll tell you now, I would rather watch the Star Wars prequels than the Hobbits. So for me, they are. But I guess that's my opinion. The book's great, like, touching the book. The book's fantastic. The Hobbit book is great. The films, no. No.
Yeah, for me, I went on a strange trajectory with The Hobbit where, like, saw the first one, thought it was fine. Saw the second one, fell asleep, then woke up about like 10 minutes later and ended up, like, after being pretty bored by the first half of the second one, I actually liked the second half of the second one a lot. But then it just ends mid scene, and you realize this is not a film. This is like the middle of a film. And like by the time I got to the third Hobbit film, it just felt like none of it had been worth the 9-hour investment over 3 years. And yeah, it's I don't know. Let's hope. We know that there's a Middle Earth series coming out that Peter Jackson is involved in, which may or may not be based on the Silmarillion. They don't seem to be talking much about it, but hopefully they've learned the message of The Hobbit. And
the only things I know about that is Amazon just keeps telling you how much money's been spent on it, but I don't know who's in it. Can't really find anything out. I heard Elijah Wood talking about it, and I'm going, oh, interesting. Thought it was going to be nothing to do with him, but
Elijah Wood just seems to hang out with Peter Jackson a lot. I get the impression because he's in The Hobbit for like a couple of minutes in the prologue, obviously, and then, but he's not really in the film apart from that, which is how it should be. It's about Bilbo, but like Elijah Wood is all over the special features of The Hobbit, like talking about and Peter thought this and Peter thought that, and like this is why Peter ended up taking up The Hobbit after Del Toro left. And it's like, why are you speaking for Peter Jackson, dude? He's on the special features as well.
Yeah, because it keeps showing you that final scene of the book where, because I might be right, that is the ending of The Hobbit, like the third one, whatever it's called, where he's signing the book, isn't it? No, Elijah Wood's signing the book.
Yeah, Bilbo's finishing the book, isn't he? And then like answers the door, and that leads you into Fellowship. Yeah.
Yeah, and you hear Elijah Wood talking about it, and I'm just going, where are you, Martin? Why are you here? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just kind of go them. I would rather watch the Star Wars prequels. I actually like the Star Wars prequels because I'm not a complete massive arsehole for Star Wars. I don't mind Star Wars. Well, I say that, I hate the new ones. But we're not getting into that. We're not getting into the rubbishness of Star Wars now. We're slating The Hobbit. I would be very interested to see Del Toro's Hobbit version. I would be. I don't know why. I really like Del Toro's monsters. So maybe that's why I would like to have seen his take on the villains. You know, how CGI. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to build us a massive dragon. I know that would have been CGI, but I would have liked to have seen his version of orcs or things. I enjoy rewatching Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit I will never rewatch.
Yeah, that's the thing. I can like kind of enjoy The Hobbit if it's on, but then anytime I think of Lord of the Rings while I'm watching The Hobbit, it just brings me back to, you're not the same thing, not in any way. And if I can just bring us back to Star Wars just for one, before we're not going on about Star Wars, but if I can bring up one thing about Star Wars, that prequel trilogy, say what you will about it, it led you to something. It led you to the birth of Darth Vader and ended on its strongest notes. Whereas The Hobbit, it ended with an overlong, big CGI battle that didn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Nope.
So yeah, I'd agree with you. Star Wars prequels are much stronger than The Hobbit.
Yeah, like say again as you say it what you want, but they may have been a bit of a mess, the prequels of Star Wars, but at least they still kept that structure of storyline. May have had all the other bits, may have been a bit of a mess. I enjoy them. I don't care what this is. I like them. But The Hobbit just never felt like the three films had a linear. Just meh. It just all felt messed. Yeah. I think we can stop slating The Hobbit now because we'll all be here forever.
Hey, I'll give it one compliment. It is not the worst cinematic prequel series. Like, if we ever cover Fantastic Beasts, I will slate Fantastic Beasts much more than The Hobbit.
I'm afraid I've not had the privilege of that saga.
Well, let's talk about that saga right now, shall we? Because of course, Fantastic Beasts it's not really based on a novel, so I'm not talking about Fantastic Beasts. Like, yeah, and yes, I know that there is a Fantastic Beasts book, but it's not. Yeah, I'm not talking about Fantastic Beasts. I'm talking about something else. I'm actually talking about a film I really like, but I'd say it is a solidly good film, a solidly good ending to its series, but I feel like the adaptation is pretty poor. And if the adaptation had been stronger, it could have been elevated from a good film to a great film. I'm talking about the two-part finale of the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Now, I'll just lead off here. Like, it's coming from a place of bias, but I feel like I have gone on a journey to appreciate what's done differently about the film. Deathly Hallows is my favorite book in the Harry Potter series, and I know a lot of people probably don't agree with that, but I just feel like that is a really well done novel. Like, there's issues with it. There's actually probably more issues with it than most Harry Potter movies novels, but the high points in that book and the tension in that book are just fantastic to me. And I'll say that the Harry Potter film series as a whole, like it, I like all the movies, really like all the movies, but the scripts or lack thereof are usually the weak part for me because Steve Kloves seems to be way too in love with J.K. Rowling's writing and consistently avoids changing anything, or I don't know, if you want to be more cynical about it, doesn't do anything himself. Like, a lot of those films, particularly the first two and the last two, are almost word for word adaptations of the books. Like, I literally can't think of a good line from those movies that isn't from the books. Like, even like silly little lines like, I don't know, Dumbledore does something badass in the fifth film, and then there's the classic line of, "Oh, you may not like him, Minister, but you can't deny Dumbledore's got style," is from the book. And I feel like, yeah, on the one hand, you have this disinterest in doing any adaptation because they just want to adapt everything that Rowling wrote. Because let's face it, it is a really interesting universe, and who wouldn't want to? But of course, we're talking about adaptation here. You need to find the spine of the story and figure out what's important. And I feel like this was almost a case of self sabotage from the start, because we all know by the time they started making these films, only I think three of them were out by the time they started making the first film, and the fourth one came out around about the same time. So there were only four books out by the time the first movie came out. So they didn't know where the books were going. So in a lot of cases, they don't know what's important and what they have to keep by the time as they're moving through the series. And like, I'll say this, there's a really damning interview with J.K. Rowling and the screenwriter Steve Kloves, where they're there together, and like, no, I guess some questions asked. I can't really remember the interview, but like some questions asked about, oh, so does Steve know how the books are going to end? And J.K. Rowling just straight up goes, no, no. He has to read the books himself as well. I'm not going to tell him anything. That is so self-sabotaging. Like, and like, you see it as the film series goes on. There are things like, as the film series goes on, more and more things start to get dropped. And I'm not the person who's like sitting here, like I've said, I feel like adaptations, films need to stand on their own and be their own thing. They can't just adapt everything that works about a book. But they end up like missing important things that suddenly they realize, oh no, that thing that we didn't do in the previous film is actually important in this film now. So we have to hastily scramble together some scene and just explain why we're doing this now. Like, there's even a case in the last Harry Potter film where Ron and Hermione are walking along a corridor and they just stop and say, "Oh, do you remember that thing Harry told us last year?" "Yeah, I remember that thing Harry told us last year." "Yeah, that's what's going on now." "Yeah, okay, cool." And like they're referencing a scene that should have been in the previous film but wasn't because they didn't include it. You know, it all ends up just being kind of, I don't know, someone like me who like knows these books really well and is watching the films. It's like the films are succeeding because obviously on the one hand it's really good source material and you have great actors, great casting, and just good direction overall. But like I can feel watching the last two films like, oh, a lot of stuff isn't being adequately explained and they're just rushing through it. Maybe it's because like there's just an attitude of this series is huge and we're at the last two. Who's going to notice if we don't explain something we didn't explain previously? And yeah, you get to this last Harry Potter film, there's just stuff in particular I notice, like Dumbledore's backstory. Like throughout the last Harry Potter film, the last two Harry Potter films, you get it established, of course, in the sixth book, sixth film, Dumbledore dies. And then Deathly Hallows is all about Harry has to go out into the world on his own for the first time. And at the same time, this autobiography of Dumbledore is being published that tells about Dumbledore's dark secret past. Of course, this is just a great piece of character building where Harry, as he becomes this solo hero who's going to take on Voldemort, is rising. At the same time, he has to come to terms with the fact that Dumbledore, the guy he always idolized, may not have been the saint he'd always thought of him as. So that's how it goes in the books. And like they read the autobiography and like Harry has to come to terms with all of that. But in the films, they like reference the fact that the autobiography has been written, and you get a few lines from Dumbledore's brother about, oh, my brother sacrificed a lot of people on his quest for glory. But they never go into that stuff. They never read the book. They never tell you what happened between Dumbledore and his family. And it just leaves you in a place of, well, why reference the facts? Why reference the fact that Dumbledore may have had this dark past if you're not going to go into it? And it's just a case of, oh, you're trying to adapt everything and you're not really thinking about, okay, if we're streamlining this story for a film, what do we keep and what do we not? And I feel like the biggest sin of this is the title objects, the Deathly Hallows. This movie is called Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2. And they barely go into the Deathly Hallows in this film. Like, Deathly Hallows, I know, Robert, you didn't see a lot of the later Harry Potter films, so I'll just go a brief summary here. The Deathly Hallows are set up as these three objects that will make one master of death. There's the Elder Wand, the like strongest wand ever invented, the invisibility cloak, which Harry has, of course, and the resurrection stone, like just a little stone that you can talk to dead people, basically. Like they find out what the Deathly Hallows are, and you of course find out that Dumbledore died as master of the Elder Wand, and now Voldemort has robbed his grave and has the Elder Wand. But aside from that, and like, of course, Harry gets the Resurrection Stone, talks to his parents, blah, 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 but you don't really go into the Deathly Hallows aside from those brief moments. Again, movie is called Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Like, after they find out what the Deathly Hallows are, they never have the conversation of, oh, Harry has an invisibility cloak. Is it the invisibility cloak that's one of the Deathly Hallows? Never comes up. Never comes up. And like it just feels like it's just a kind of like lazy adaptation where they've just taken Rowling's words, spread them out over 5 hours, and just just spread them all out, and then just said, right, we need to cut here, cut here, cut here. What are we cutting? I don't know. We need to get the movie out. Who cares? And it's just, again, I feel like most people probably can just watch the film and accept, yeah, this is fun. This is an exciting conclusion. And again, I think the movie's good. Like, the ideas that J.K. Rowling came up with in the book are mostly well translated. the direction's good and the actors are all great, but for someone like me who's read the book and who thinks like I do, just like analyzes a film as a film, it just always feels to me like you could have done a much stronger adaptation and you could have like really streamlined this down and made a really great ending. And in the end, it just feels like yeah, it's good, but it's not the best Harry Potter film. And it's like, it's a fine ending, but if you just thought about it a bit more, and honestly, what they really should have done, I mean, on the one hand, it would have sucked that we wouldn't have had the cast we did if they'd done this, but they really maybe should have waited until all the books were out before they made the Harry Potter films. And they could have foreshadowed stuff that they didn't think to foreshadow in earlier films, and it would have just been a much smoother process. But as I say, I like all the Harry Potter films. They're a part of who I was as a kid that I've carried to adulthood. But I just think there are just things that bug me about those last two films in particular. But the series overall, it's kind of a weak adaptation as far as the script goes. So, Robert, as I said, you've not seen a lot of the later Harry Potter films. So, what's your opinion on the series in general?
Well, I've seen the first three, so I can only talk about that. Even then, I've not seen a lot. Harry Potter's a weird one for me. Yeah, I've seen the first three films, and I've only read one book, the first one. I don't think I was really ever into Harry Potter. Like, I enjoyed Philosopher's Stone, although I'm sure when I seen it on a DVD, it was called Sorcerer's Stone, but I may or may not have had an American version. So I think in America it was called Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah, that was the thing, wasn't it?
That was really confusing me
because
when I got it.
Americans, is this just a pissing contest between the UK and America? Because I'm sure Americans know what a philosopher is. Like, I
always thought a sorcerer. I always thought a sorcerer and a philosopher were two different things.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. I might be wrong.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
yeah. I don't know. The first one, I actually quite enjoyed the first one. Again, when I was younger, I seen it. My favourite of the three that I've seen is Prisoner of Azkaban. I felt it was dark, and I liked that. I felt like that was the moment I grew up. Bar that, I haven't then seen them, and I don't really know why. I don't know if I just lost interest or. I don't think Prisoner of Azkaban was the one I actually seen in the cinema. I don't know. I just never really stuck with Harry Potter. I don't think that kind of universe fascinated me or interested me. Much like the prequels, Magnificent Beasts, and where to find them. That doesn't interest me. I don't really care who they cast, and I like Jude Law, but I couldn't care less to watch him.
yeah. Here's the thing. I mean, I said I wouldn't go into Fantastic Beasts, but you've prompted me now. So, like, listen, folks, you can't just proclaim the return of your franchise as great just because you're happy to see wizards again. You need to demand better from your franchise because Fantastic Beasts, it's the terrible prequel that like you expect from the Star Wars prequels from the reputation. It's just the like epitome of a series existing just based on its minutia. Like I sat watching that first Fantastic Beasts film, like a friend of mine, like a good friend of mine, she was like begging me to go and see it. It's like, oh, I really want to talk to you about it. Go and see it and we can talk about it. It's so great. And like just sat there going, there is no story to this. There are no interesting characters in this. It's just minutia. It's like what you're getting off on is the fact that the Harry Potter universe is back, not that anything is actually good about this. And yeah, like I know you haven't seen it, Robert. I'll use like a metaphor. Imagine if they made the Star Wars prequels.
Yep.
Anakin and Obi-Wan don't show up until the second movie, and at that point they're just cameos. Like you're focusing on these characters who don't matter in the grand scheme of things and you don't really like, but you get the sense, oh, Anakin and Obi-Wan are kind of they're somewhere off screen, you know, and like you're just thinking the full time, when are we going to get to? Isn't this about Anakin becoming Darth Vader? Like when are we going to get to that? Like you establish, if you've read the Harry Potter books, you establish Dumbledore has this backstory where he fought Grindelwald, and this like Grindelwald's might be like this, the worst a wizard could get prior to Voldemort, and like you're reading Harry Potter and you're thinking, yeah, that's what a Harry Potter prequel should be. Like it should be Dumbledore versus Grindelwald. But yeah, you get the first Fantastic Beasts film. Dumbledore doesn't show up. Grindelwald cameos at the end. And then the second one, Dumbledore and Grindelwald are both side characters, but you're just focusing on stuff that doesn't matter. And beyond doesn't matter isn't interesting. So Fantastic Beasts is a failed venture. Like, and I can't believe they're saying they're going to commit to this 5-movie plan for Fantastic Beasts. It's like, stop. You failed. Leave Harry Potter as the good 8 movies that it was.
I mean, I'd like to know where Jude Law, how Dumbledore changed from being quite a well snazzy dressed guy to being dressed up like in his pajamas. Like, what was? I've seen the pictures. Like, what happened there? Plus, have they not weirdly created a romance between him and Grindelwald or Grindel, whatever his name is? Or does that?
See, I felt it's because J.K. Rowling is full on said, yeah, Dumbledore and Grindelwald had this romance, but the films aren't really even referencing it. Like they're sort of going into like weird looks when Dumbledore's thinking about Grindelwald, and it's like, okay, you're leaving that as something people can read into it, but you don't want to commit to, you know, a hero and villain who are also a gay couple. You know, it's just backwards in that way. So
it's not really him stopping Grindelwald from being an evil villain, trying to whatever his plan is. It's more him stopping him because it's a lover's tiff. Again, I don't know
what they're leading to is the idea that Dumbledore and Grindelwald weren't going to fight, and Dumbledore doesn't want to fight Grindelwald, but he will eventually have to fight Grindelwald, which would be a compelling story if Dumbledore had any focus in these films whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, so what you're saying is, see if they focused on that, we could have that Obi-Wan versus Anakin Skywalker moment.
Absolutely.
Which I thought was a great moment, but because it's in the prequels, I'm not allowed to enjoy it. Instead, we're going to get this really rubbish moment. Yeah, you're not selling it to me, Peter. I don't think I'll give it a try. I don't think I can. I think I'd rather watch The Hobbit.
I would rather watch The Hobbit than Fantastic Beasts again. Like, Jesus. It's not good. But Harry Potter is. Like, and as I've said, I think Deathly Hallows has some adaptation issues, but it's a good film, and like just rewatching it, like I mean, I'll say when I first watched Deathly Hallows in the cinema, I was really disappointed. Like I just felt like you've just dropped the ball on the adaptation here, and it's not the finale that it should be for this series. But watched it again last year, just with COVID. I've just tried to go back and marathon a bunch of series, and really enjoyed Deathly Hallows. Like, but I'd be lying if I said the moments where the adaptation drops the ball just shine through still. But so yeah, could have been a great movie, is a good movie, and a good series overall.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've talked about the Wizarding World for quite an extended period there. So Robert, what is your wild card novel adaptation for this evening?
Well, I'm going with Treasure Planet. This was interesting. I watched this when I was younger. This is actually one of my favourite childhood films. Weirdly didn't do too well, but when it first came out, I mean, it's got quite a weird cult following, and a lot of people do say it's one of Disney's more, you know, Disney's better stories. I mean, it's not really hard to say it's a better story for the fact that it is based on Treasure Island. Treasure Island, obviously, being a classic novel. I good like this is one of these things. I'm all for. Sometimes I don't mind remakes, reboots, adaptations, whatever you want to call them, that they make the same story, but again, with subtle changes. Oh, so this isn't so subtle. It's not in sea. It's not really sea, and it's not an island. It's a full planet in the galaxy. But it was a nice change because how many different stories has there been about Treasure Island? I would have picked the Muppets Treasure Island. I would have, because again, that was a classic. Tim Curry was amazing. The songs were good. I now feel myself switching, but I won't. The reason because there is numerous versions of Treasure Island, and they're all sea and islands. Whereas I appreciated the fact that this gave us a universe, a galaxy to play with. Uh, I enjoy that, and it follows, and it's basically the same story. Young fella called Jim. It starts with Jim being a child reading about Captain Flint, the creator of the legendary Treasure Planet, but it's just a novel, a story. It's a myth. It's not real, allegedly. 12 years later, he runs a kind of tavern with his mother, and a ship crashes outside, and it's this alien. I can't remember what the alien looks like, but it's Billy Bones that hands him like a sphere, and he dies. Sad. This is what I say about children's films. The Muppets. Again, I'm talking about the Muppets. They picked it up perfectly when Billy Connolly's Billy Bones had died. Was he Billy Bones? No, he wasn't Billy Bones.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Oh, somebody gave him the black spot. Yeah, he died.
Aye, Jim lads, Jiminy, Jim. Aye, that's it. Yeah.
That is it. They make that reference. Someone died in a children's film, but as we alluded to earlier, sometimes we need those dark moments. But again, it's the book. Someone dies called Billy Bones. He changes it as well because I think, if I now remember, is the reference in Treasure Island Beware the One-Legged Man? Or no, is it Beware the Silver? Oh, I can't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is Beware the One-Legged Man.
Because I know
it is in the Muppet one anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, it's either a reference to him being silver, or one-legged. Anyway, this is Beware the Cyborg. So again, they've took the warning, but they've changed it for the time that it's at. Not a problem. It fits the kind of universe they've created. So he goes off because this turns out this sphere is the map, which in Treasure Island, Jim had the map. So he goes away and he meets who he needs to meet, which I think was the Doctor, Delbert Doppler, which I think is correct in the film. No, it's wrong. No, it's right. It's right. Sorry, Doppler was in the film. Got my notes here and I'm all over the place. Doppler, he meets him, they set off. Well, the Doctor's commissioned a ship called the RLS Legacy. And it basically follows again the same story as Treasure Island. They have a captain who's very strong, very straight to the point, except this one it is a feline captain called Captain Amelia, who's played by Emma Thompson. I should reference that Jim is played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, if that helps in any way. Yeah, it's very interesting. Mm-hmm. And they also have Mr. Arrow, who's strong and stone-willed, hard-pushed first mate. It was very good. And of course, all the crew are... The way they've done these drawings is it's like one of them's an alien spider who looks evil. Or basically, the crew look evil. As like they implied in the original, the crew are all bad, and they're all followed by a cook called John Silver, who is a cyborg. He owns a cute wee, like, it's like a wee pink alien that kind of transforms into people, and his name's Doppler. No, it's not Doppler, it's a Doctor. Morph. Because I was going to say Doppelganger. Morph. But yeah, the whole, I think with Treasure Island, there's not a parrot Long John Silver had. So that's the equivalent. I know he had a pet. I can't remember what it was. I know in Treasure Island, the Muppets one, it was like a crab.
Yeah, it was a crab that thought it was a parrot, right?
Yeah, it was a weird adaptation. But basically, in this, it's a thing that can change. It's like, it's a morph. It morphs. So it's Jim remembers his warning, beware of the cyborg. But despite the kind of, again, like the book, The Mistrust, he realises that in a weird way that this guy can't be right because he takes him in, trains him to be the cabin boy, looks after him on the ship, And really, the development of the father figure Bond is brilliant. They play it out so well. You know, he really trusts him. Again, I think like most of the adaptations have done, you know, but he does have, as I said, the treacherous spider-looking man called Scroop. You know, there's a villainous name for you, Scroop. I think in the original, in the book, it's a storm they have, and he kind of pushes or throws off Mr. Arrow to get rid of him. In this version, they hit a black hole, because of course I imagine a black hole would be like your storm in space, or your your whirlpool. I don't know. I'm not a seaman. I don't really know. I've not got the legs for sea, so I don't know what the terms would be. It's basically all that, and it's also the question that the gang, the evil crew, are starting not to trust uh, John Silver because they think he's becoming soft. Then you have again in the book the big leading the charge, leading the rally, proving he is the hard man. Jim overhears him, goes to report it, and the mutiny starts. So basically, in the mutiny, Jim, Captain, and the Doctor are kicked off the ship. They're then shot down because obviously it's in space. But bearing in mind, the ship looks like a ship. It's quite a weird thing. The ship looks like an old ship from Treasure Island. The longboat, as it's called, looks like a longboat, just except the differences to obviously space. It gets shot down by a plasma cannon. Don't know why I done that like Doctor Evil there, but plasma cannon. That just happens to crash on Treasure Island. So they've now found Treasure Island. The captain's injured. Blah blah blah. They then have the moments where they find the treasure, and they just have the big kind of yeah. They find a robot as well. This is where now I'm forgetting the film because it was more. I always felt this was Treasure Island. My favourite moments of Treasure Island was the build up, was the moment on the boat, was the great relationship you gathered with Jim and John. Much again with the Muppets one, and much again with this. But you have the moments where they crash in the ship, they deal with they eventually have a big fight, they deal with the crew, and they find all the gold. But Long John Silver inevitably escapes. You know, he's captured, but he starts to escape. And they do that scene very well as well. The ending, I think most versions is always quite nice. He'll let John Silver escape with some of the gold. It's that weirdness of what I think was John Silver, Long John Silver, really like he was a villain, but you sense that Jim may have changed him. So Jim gives him a chance. He takes some of the gold, throws some of it back, but tells him to look after Morph. It's a very nice. That seems great. Again, much like the Muppets one, I think was very well done. I compare it to the Muppets quite a lot because these are my two favourite versions of. Bearing in mind they are children's films, but I don't care. They are my favourite versions of them. It's a sweet moment, and it basically is on, and it tells you that he's now been recommended to the big sea companies Jim has by the captain, and yeah, happy ending. He can move on and become a captain and all that stuff. It's the same kind of. It's got the same generic children kind of thing, you know. Sad moment, bad moment, great, nice, lovely ending, but it is a different. I've picked it because it's different in the sense that, again, it's a different version of Treasure Island I've seen, with it being planets in space, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Little adaptations. Again, this is quite a big. It's not really. I don't think this is a big adaptation actually, about because it's the same story, but they've just changed the area. I don't think it makes a difference the fact that Treasure Island never really said countries, if I remember rightly, whereas this just says it's in space. Whereas there is a book and games called Metro. Well, the games are called Metro 2033. I think the books are called something different, Metro, different timeline, which basically, quickly found in here, nuclear war, Russia. Right? It's heavily set on Russia. There's talking about a series or a film, and it's got to be set in America. It would so ruin the whole plot and the whole idea. I can't explain why. I don't know if you ever get these feelings, if you know what I'm talking about. It just, sometimes changing a country just ruins it. The whole point of it is built upon Russia's infrastructure and the time that it happened, and because Russia does have still has an alleged very communist regime, not politics. I'm not going into that. It doesn't deal with that. It deals with some people are very communist. some people are very fascist in Russia, and it very much explores the political landscape in these metros with monsters. So again, I don't know how that would work in America. Plus, which city really has such an infrastructure, a subway? I suppose New York. But anyway, the adaptation of that wouldn't work, but this adaptation works. I don't know why now. I feel like I've just jumbled myself. If you understand what I'm talking about, cool. If you don't, then get out of my face. I'm not explaining it. Peter, have you seen Treasure Island? Treasure Planet?
Well, first of all, before I go into Treasure Planet, anyone who wants to take the mick out of us for holding up Muppet Treasure Island can get
I'll fight you.
lost, because for our generation, that is the definitive Muppet film and the definitive Treasure Island movie. Like, I'd hold that up after the first Pirates of the Caribbean. That's the second best pirate movie ever made for me. But yeah, I remember liking Treasure Planet. I only saw it like when it was new on video, probably. But yeah, I remember liking it. It's part of that period we talked about when we did kids' films recently, where, you know, it's CG animated films are coming in. So this is kind of like the last wave of traditionally animated films before Disney just goes all, yeah, Chicken Little and what have you. So, but yeah, I feel like this and Atlantis were those last films, and maybe they're just kind of forgotten a bit because they're darker than anything else Disney did, basically. But yeah, these are fun films. Like, I remember liking it. But yeah, it's one I need to revisit, basically.
So. Yeah, I just enjoy the changes that they made. I think they were good changes. I know I've said this 1,000 times. Just I enjoyed their confidence to change it, because they could have easily just made a cartoon version of Treasure Island, and they did make a Treasure Island version, if you know what I mean. But they changed to make it in space, so I appreciate that. It's hard between picking that or the Muppets one. If I'm totally honest, the Muppets one's fantastic. I mean, Tim Curry, nearly called him Tim Allen there. Tim Curry was just amazing in it. I know he wasn't in Treasure Planet, but we just knew, I've spoke about the Muppets. If anyone comes at me, that is the best Muppets film. And it annoys me that every time I go on Netflix or Amazon or Now TV, the 3 streaming services that I have, I'm either hit with the new Muppets film about some stupid thing trying to save the Muppets that I don't care about, or even, was it the Muppets hit New York? Now, that's okay, but I want Treasure Island, Peter. Yeah, so I've said my piece on Treasure Planet.
So my wildcard pick is another actually pretty critically acclaimed film, to be honest, but I feel like we've talked about it's a film no one would expect me to like, basically. Yeah, maybe that's just society putting people into their groups, but who cares? This is an amazing film and I love it. It is 2019's Little Women. And yeah, like, I'll say I have never read the book Little Women and never seen a previous adaptation of it, but this film just, I don't know, there was something about it, just the cast involved and just the good buzz it was getting that just made me really want to watch it. And yeah, I love this film. Like, brilliant cast, as I say, Saoirse Ronan, Emma Watson, Florence Pugh, yeah, Meryl Streep's even in there, Laura Dern. Yeah, so I feel like everyone knows the story of Little Women. It's about these 4 sisters, Meg, Jo, Amy, and Beth, who you see them all grow up. They all have their individual interests, and they all, of course, have their own romantic interests. And of course, then you see them grow into little women from childhood and end up with them all basically married or whatever happens to one of them. And yeah, this is a film where, like, I feel like I have to, even though I've never read the book, I have to praise the adaptation, because the way they structure this film is they have the 2 parallel timelines moving next to each other. Like, they keep flashing back and forth between them, like, towards the end of the story and them as youngsters. And to be honest, like, the way that, like, the emotions run parallel and just intersect with each other for, like, the biggest impact just feels like that would just be so the natural way to tell the story. And, like, I need to praise the adaptation there, because I just can't imagine, after watching this version of the film, how you would tell it any other way. And that's why I feel like I can defend it as a great adaptation. So yeah, it's really hard to talk about this film without going into spoilers. But then again, everyone who's either read the book or watched that episode of Friends knows what happens in Little Women. So yeah, I just like, it's a film I would just kick myself if I didn't bring up on this show at some point, because yeah, this is a movie that it was kind of overlooked. It got nominated for a bunch of Oscars, but it got overlooked for Best Director. Greta Gerwig, who should have definitely been nominated, should have won Best Adapted Screenplay. I don't care what anyone says, it should have won Best Adapted Screenplay. And of course, Robert, your nemesis, Taika Waititi, took home Best Adapted Screenplay for Jojo Rabbit, which is a film I love. Folks, if you can see Robert right now, he is yelling at the screen.
I'm unmuting myself to cut you off. You're joking me. That one, Jojo Rabbit. Please continue.
Yeah, Jojo Rabbit. I like that film a lot, but it's no Little Women. And yeah, the acting here. This is, of course, part of Florence Pugh's great 2019 year, where she had Fighting with My Family, great film. Midsummer, film I like for 90 minutes very much, and then falls apart at the end, but she's great in it, and she's great here. And Saoirse Ronan is amazing in this. Emma Watson proving she can move past Hermione, which, yeah, this is a, yeah, it's a film that it really like connects with you on a level where you just identify with moving through life the way they do, and like dealing with loss the way they do. Like, I'll admit, I got really emotional towards the end of this movie, and anyone who's read the book or seen that episode of Friends knows why. And yeah, I don't want to spoil it, like, for the small portion of the world who doesn't know what happens in Little Women. Go and watch it. This is an amazing, like, a period piece that doesn't feel stuffy. Like, it's very, it like feels like a period piece, and like it looks right and everything, and just gets the atmosphere down. But it's entertaining more than you'd expect a period piece to be of that kind of ilk. Like, it's so alive and so likable, really, even though there is tragedy in the film, obviously. Like, and yeah, that's again why you're so invested and why you get emotional when you get to the tragedy, is because you are invested in these characters. And yeah, I don't want to go any further into it. I just want folk, if you're watching it and you haven't seen it, go and watch it. It's amazing. And yeah, love this film. Robert, have you seen it?
No. I have seen it advertised. Again, it's either on Amazon to watch or Now TV. It's on one or the other. I have seen it, obviously, heard it done very well. I know Timothy Chalamet?
That's the
Chalamet's
one.
in it.
Yes.
Yeah, the man that was in the other film I spoke about a while ago. Another episode. Yeah, I would say it done very well. Yeah, it's a good point when you raised Hermione Granger. Emma Watson, I feel like she really needs to. I feel like she's still struggling with that Hermione Granger role. And I don't know if it's because, was it not one of the films she was in right after it? She had to play someone who was English, and her accent was really weird, and it just made people go, it's Hermione Granger still. I mean, she is English, I get this, don't start attacking me, but it's like she doesn't do herself any justice. Whereas I think Daniel Radcliffe, really pushed off from Harry Potter with some, albeit some weird films, some very entertaining films.
Yeah, Radcliffe's kind of done the same thing that Elijah Wood did after the Lord of the Rings, where Elijah Wood started playing serial killers, rapists, that kind of thing, where he just wants to like, and I love that he did that. That's the thing, he's amazing as a villain in like Sin City and the remake of Maniac, Elijah Wood. And
is that right?
Yeah, like, I love that he's done that, and it's cool that Daniel Radcliffe's doing the same thing. And
yeah, I think as much as they say their success comes from it, and they're not going to moan at their success from these films, it's very hard to move on. I think, well, I know fella that played Ron Weasley, whose name I do, Rupert Grint, he retired originally, did he not? or said he was going to retire, and then obviously came back to do things. He's now
Yeah,
for
I'm not sure if he...
Snatch.
Oh yeah, Snatch, of course. He's done that new Shyamalan TV series, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, which,
Random.
I don't know, Shyamalan has a few hits and a lot of misses, let's say that, so I'm not really interested. But yeah, Rupert Grint felt like the one who just disappeared, so maybe you're right. Maybe he did retire for a bit, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've seen clips of the ice cream van.
Isn't that his ice cream van? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the plan
I
is.
don't know.
It's a bit creepy. Yeah, no, I might give it a watch. Again, I haven't read about period. I don't know. It doesn't sound like the film that I would watch, but there's no harm in me giving it a try.
Definitely, and as I say, there's just something that feels more alive to this film than something like, I don't know. I mean, I kind of like The Favourite, but there's something more alive to this than The Favourite, or hey, Barry Lyndon, which I brought up recently, which is, of course, proclaimed a great masterpiece. So, yeah, watch Little Women. I think you might like it. So, yes, that brings us to the end of our novel adaptations show. Of course, I don't know. I feel like this is something we could come back to at some point in the future again if we suddenly strike inspiration and remember, oh, we should have talked about that, because it's a big playing field, let's be honest.
Yeah, you could literally do authors themselves.
Yes, we have, of course, talked about Stephen King as a potential show, so there's a lot there.
He has a few, shall we say.
Yes. So I feel like now that we've reached that time, we need to spin the wheel, right?
I've not come up with a theme tune yet, so we'll come up with that later.
Of course, this is on an app, so we're not going to be showing you the wheel. I will say, I feel like it actually works that we're not showing the wheel, because that way no one knows what the topics are except us. So
that way we can just make up our own.
Yeah, well, there are about 20 odd topics on here, so
can't say we're not prepared.
No. So here we go. And the wheel has landed on
Oh no.
Video game adaptations.
Oh, Scoofed. Here we go. I'm looking forward to this one. There are so many shocking ones out there. But this will be good.
This will be good. I actually feel like, I know we've often ditched the best, worst, wildcard categories and just gone for best. This could be one where we could just go for worst, but I feel like there are a few pretty good ones out there. So
yeah, and there are a few kind of weirdly bad ones that you do like. Like, I have to be honest with you, I do kind of like Street Fighter, even though it is bad.
And I like 2 out of the 4 Resident Evil films, 2 out of the 6 Resident Evil films. So yeah, so I feel like Robert and I are going to have a long discussion and come back to you next week. So for now, I will say, Robert, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
And to the audience, thank you for watching. We will see you next time.
Wasn't Richard Fry like in all 3 films as 3 different characters?
Stephen Fry?
What did I just say there?
Richard Fry.
Richard Fry.
I'm pretty sure it's only the second one.
No,
is he?
I may be wrong. I may be wrong, but I know he played multiple characters because he did not play. Was it a big fat troll in the cave?
No, that's Dame Edna. That's the troll in the cave.
You're joking me?
No, it is. Yeah.
I don't know why I thought Fry played the. Is it the Goblin King? Was that with that character?
Yeah, Goblin King. Yeah.
That was it. I always thought that was Fry. All right, maybe I'm right. I don't know. I thought I read something that said Fry played multiple people. Not even Stephen Fry could say that for me. Never mind who Richard Fry is. I don't know where I get that name from. That shows you how interested I was in The Hobbit. That is the best Muppets film. And it annoys me that every time I go on Netflix or Amazon or Now TV, the 3 streaming services that I have, I'm either hit with the new Muppets film about some stupid thing trying to save the Muppets that I don't care about, or even was it the Muppets Hit New York? Now that's okay, but I want Treasure Island, Peter.
Oh,
I don't want stupid Muppets Gonzo in space. I love that. I didn't really like that one.
I'm gonna need to check if it's on Disney Plus now. Now that you've said that, it should be on Disney Plus. I don't know if it is though.
That's in Disney Plus. That around me. I'm not getting Disney Plus. It is not happening. I will not fall into this trap. I will even find it on YouTube. I've been finding. By the way, I found all the Land of the Dead and the Dawn of the Dead films on YouTube. I'll find them. Don't you grab that DVD, Peter? I will attack you if you've got that on DVD.
You want it? Come and get it.
I can beat you. I've got the video,
Yeah.
but it's in that cupboard right at the back, and I'm not getting it. I say I'll beat you. Who really has anything to play a video? I don't, but I don't care. It's the principle. I mean, it's a film I've not watched. I've seen it advertised again and on Now TV or Amazon, one or the other. This isn't an advertisement for Amazon or Now TV. I will refuse to advertise you, even though I just mentioned you numerous times.
So the fact that you keep talking about them, but you keep dissing Disney Plus has nothing to do with anything.
Disney Plus is evil. No, I don't get sue me. I have the power of Amazon behind me. Said too much, you know.
Of course, this is on an app, so we're not going to be showing you the whale. Lest, of course, Disney end up owning the wheel and end up coming after Robert for that as well. Like they're going to use any excuse at a certain point.
I just spoke about Treasure Planet, so they can get Ben. I spoke about their films numerous times. They're old films, not the new ones. Hercules is the best. Get away from me.
Yeah. I loved Hercules as a kid, but I don't think it holds up now. This only works if the screen's on you, Robert.
Spin the wheel. Spin the wheel.